The capture. On a bright morning, the sky above the planet Vira was a deep blue, dotted with clouds that glowed like cotton candy. Zira, a young alien girl with bright green skin and large, curious eyes, loved to explore her home. She lived in a small village surrounded by tall trees and colorful flowers. The people of her village were friendly, and they often shared stories about brave heroes and exciting adventures. But this day was different. Zira and her friends were playing near a sparkling stream when they heard loud noises in the distance. At first, they thought it was thunder, but the sound grew louder and more menacing. Zira's heart raced as she saw dark ships flying low in the sky. They were the ships of the Black Nebula, a notorious group known for capturing aliens and selling them for profit. "Run!" Zira shouted, her voice filled with fear. The children scattered in all directions, racing back to their homes. Zira sprinted through the trees, her breath quickening as the sound of engines roared behind her. She glanced back and saw the ships landing, their doors opening to reveal menacing figures dressed in black armor. Zira's village was in chaos. The Black Nebula had come for them. She dashed toward her home, hoping to find safety, but as she arrived, she saw the nightmare unfold. Her neighbors were being taken, their cries echoing through the air. The men in armor moved quickly, capturing anyone they could find. Zira felt a surge of panic. She knew she had to hide. She spotted a small cave nearby and hurried inside. It was dark and cool, but Zira felt a little safer in the shadows. She held her breath, hoping the soldiers would not find her. Minutes felt like hours as she listened to the sounds of destruction outside. She could hear the soldiers shouting orders and the cries of her friends. Her heart sank. She wanted to help them, but she knew she had to stay hidden. Suddenly, the voices grew closer, and Zira held her breath, feeling small and helpless. Just then, a soldier entered the cave. Zira froze, her heart pounding in her chest. The soldier was tall and fierce, scanning the darkness. Zira tried to make herself as small as possible, hoping he would not see her. But the soldier stepped closer, and with a swift motion, he grabbed her arm. Zira gasped, her eyes wide with fear. "Please, let me go," she begged, but her words fell on deaf ears. The soldier yanked her out of the cave and into the light. Zira squirmed and kicked, but he was too strong. As they stepped outside, Zira saw the devastation around her. Homes were destroyed, and her friends were being taken away. Tears streamed down her face as she realized her life would never be the same. The soldier dragged her to a waiting ship, and she felt a deep sense of despair. Inside the ship, Zira was thrown into a small, dark cell. The door slammed shut, and she was alone. She wrapped her arms around her knees, feeling a mix of fear and anger. Why had this happened? Who would save her now? As the ship lifted off the ground, Zira looked out the small window at her planet, now just a blur beneath them. In that moment, she made a silent promise to herself. She would not give up. She would find a way to escape and return to her home, no matter what it took. The adventure was just beginning, and deep inside, Zira felt a flicker of hope ignite in her heart. The smuggler's reputation. In a busy spaceport on the planet Corin, ships of all shapes and sizes buzzed like bees in a garden. Merchants shouted their wares, and travelers hurried to catch their flights. Among the crowd, one man stood out, Jack, a seasoned smuggler known across the galaxy. With his rugged face and worn leather jacket, he had a reputation that made people both wary and curious. Jack was not just any smuggler. He was the best. His daring rescues and clever tricks made him a legend. Many knew stories of how he saved people from dangerous situations, but few knew the truth behind his actions. Jack had a complicated past filled with loss and regret. He had once been a part of a great crew that fought against the Black Nebula. They were brave and loyal, but one terrible day, everything changed. A trap set by the Black Nebula had taken his friends away, and Jack had barely escaped with his life. Now Jack worked alone. He took jobs that others would refuse, often risking his safety for a good cause. He believed in helping those who couldn't help themselves, even if it meant crossing paths with criminals. Many people in the spaceport whispered about him. Some called him a hero, while others saw him as just another thief. But one thing was clear: Jack was someone you did not want to cross. That day, Jack sat at a small table in a dimly lit cantina, nursing a drink. The air was thick with smoke and laughter, but he felt out of place. He was waiting for a contact to give him a new job. Suddenly, a hooded figure approached, sliding into the seat across from him. Jack raised an eyebrow, his instincts alert. "You're Jack, right?" the figure asked, their voice low and cautious. "I am. What do you want?" Jack replied, leaning back, his arms crossed. The figure pulled back their hood, revealing a young woman with worried eyes. "I have a job for you. It's dangerous, but the reward is worth it." Jack listened carefully as she spoke. She told him about a young alien girl named Zira who had been captured by the Black Nebula. She explained how Zira possessed unique abilities that made her valuable. The more the woman spoke, the more Jack's interest grew. He could picture the girl's fear and helplessness, and a familiar fire ignited in his chest. "How much are you offering?" Jack asked, keeping his voice steady. The woman quickly named a sum, and Jack frowned. It wasn't enough, but something about Zira's story pulled at him. He remembered his own past and the friends he had lost to the Black Nebula. "I'll do it," he finally said, surprising even himself. "But I need more than just credits. I need a ship and some backup." The woman nodded eagerly, relief washing over her face. "I can help with that. We have a small crew ready to go. But you must be quick. Zira is in a holding cell, and they plan to sell her soon." As Jack stood up to leave, he felt a sense of purpose. He had been wandering through the galaxy, lost and alone for too long. Now he had a mission. It was time to stop running from his past and confront it. Jack made his way through the bustling spaceport, determination in his stride. The thrill of adventure stirred inside him. He was about to embark on a journey that could change everything, not just for Zira, but for himself as well. The smuggler's reputation would soon be put to the test, and Jack was ready to show the galaxy what he was truly made of. The plan. Jack stood on the bridge of the small ship, the Star Chaser, feeling the familiar hum of the engines beneath his feet. The crew gathered around a holographic table, their faces lit up by the glowing map of the galaxy. Each member had their own skills and stories, but they all shared one common goal: to rescue Zira from the clutches of the Black Nebula. The crew included Maya, a tough mechanic with grease-stained hands and a no-nonsense attitude; Finn, a young pilot who could fly any ship; and Rena, a skilled hacker who could break into any system. Jack looked at each of them, knowing that their combined talents would be crucial for the mission ahead. "All right, everyone," Jack said, his voice steady. "We have a job to do. Zira is being held in a high-security facility on the planet Rolfor. We need a solid plan to get her out." He pointed to the holographic map, which displayed the layout of the facility. "This is where she's being kept. It's surrounded by guards and security systems." Maya crossed her arms, frowning. "We can't just charge in. There are too many guards, and they'll be ready for us. We need a distraction." Jack nodded, appreciating her insight. "Good point. Finn, you're the pilot. Can you create a diversion in the skies?" Finn grinned, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "Absolutely. I can fly in low and make it look like we're under attack. The guards will have to split up to deal with it." "Perfect," Jack replied. "Rena, you'll hack into their security systems while Finn distracts them. We need to unlock the door to Zira's cell and create a path for our escape." Rena leaned over the map, her fingers dancing in the air as she traced the security routes. "I can disable the cameras for a few minutes, but I'll need some time. Once we're in, we have to move quickly." Jack looked at each member of his crew, feeling a wave of pride. They were a team, and they would work together to make this mission a success. We'll have to be smart. Timing is everything. Once Rena disables the security, we'll have just a few minutes to get in and out before they notice something is wrong. Got it, Rena replied, nodding firmly. Okay, Jack said, taking a deep breath. We leave at first light. I want everyone to get some rest. We'll need our energy for what's ahead. He knew the stakes were high, but he felt a surge of determination. This was not just about rescuing Zira. It was about standing up against the Black Nebula and fighting for what was right. As the crew dispersed, Jack walked to the front of the ship, looking out at the stars. Memories of his past flooded his mind. Of the crew he had lost, of the battles fought, and the lives saved. He knew the risks they were taking, but he couldn't turn back now. Zira was counting on them. In the quiet of the ship, Jack made a silent promise. He would not let fear stop him this time. He would rescue Zira and bring her home. As the stars twinkled brightly outside, he felt hope rising within him. Together, they would fight against the darkness and create a new beginning for Zira and for himself. The rescue operation. The sun rose over the planet Rolfor, casting an orange glow across the sky. Jack stood at the controls of the Star Chaser, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. This is it, he said to himself, glancing back at his crew, who were busy preparing for the mission. Finn, with his wild hair and bright smile, was checking the ship's systems. Maya was inspecting the tools they would need for the rescue, her hands moving quickly and efficiently. Rena sat at the computer, her eyes focused as she tapped away, ready to hack into the security system. Let's run through the plan one more time, Jack said, trying to keep everyone calm. Finn, you'll create the distraction. Rena, you'll take over the security feeds. Maya and I will go in and find Zira. Got it, Finn replied, his voice filled with enthusiasm. I'll make some noise up there. Just wait for my signal. The crew nodded, their faces serious but determined. Jack felt a wave of confidence wash over him. They had trained for this moment, and now it was time to put their plan into action. As they landed near the facility, Jack's heart raced. The building was tall and imposing, surrounded by high fences and patrolled by guards. He turned to his crew, his voice steady. Remember, we're doing this for Zira. Stay focused, and let's bring her home. Finn took a deep breath and piloted the Star Chaser into the sky, zooming toward the facility. As planned, he flew low, creating a scene that would draw attention. Suddenly, he activated the ship's weapons systems, firing harmless flares into the air. Bright explosions lit up the sky, causing alarms to blare in the facility. Now's our chance, Jack shouted. Rena quickly typed into her console, her fingers flying across the keys. I'm in, she exclaimed, her eyes shining with excitement. Cameras are down for the next 5 minutes. Jack and Maya rushed toward the entrance, their hearts pounding. They slipped past the guards, who were now distracted by the flares in the sky. The sound of footsteps echoed behind them, but they kept moving, driven by the urgency of their mission. Inside the facility, the air was cold and sterile. Jack felt a shiver run down his spine as they moved through the dimly lit halls. Which way? Maya asked, glancing at the map on her wrist device. According to the layout, Zira should be on this floor, Jack replied, his eyes scanning the surroundings. They reached a heavy door marked Holding Cells, and Jack took a deep breath. This is it. With a quick glance over his shoulder, he pushed the door open. Inside, they found rows of empty cells, each one locked tight. But at the end of the hall, a single light shone over Zira's cell. Jack rushed to the door and fumbled with the lock. Come on, he muttered, feeling the pressure of time ticking away. Maya stood watch, her heart racing as she listened for footsteps. Hurry, she urged. Finally, with a loud click, the door swung open. Jack stepped inside, and there she was, Zira, looking scared but strong. Her green skin glowed softly in the light, and her large eyes widened in surprise. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I'm Jack," he said quickly. "We're here to rescue you." Zira blinked in disbelief. "A human? You came for me?" "Of course," Jack replied, extending a hand. "We don't have much time. We need to get out of here." As Zira stepped forward, Jack could see the fear slowly melting away. Together, they hurried back toward the exit, where Maya was waiting anxiously. Just as they reached the door, Jack heard footsteps approaching. "Go. Now," he shouted, pushing Zira and Maya ahead of him. They dashed down the hall, adrenaline pumping through their veins. The mission was far from over, but they were one step closer to freedom. The encounter. As they rushed down the dimly lit corridor, Jack led the way, his heart pounding with urgency. Zira followed closely behind him, her green skin glistening under the flickering lights. Maya was right at their heels, her eyes darting around, scanning for any signs of trouble. "Which way?" Zira asked, her voice a mix of fear and determination. Jack glanced at the map on his wrist device. "We need to head left. That'll take us to the maintenance exit. It should be less guarded." He didn't want to think about the guards closing in on them. Every second counted. They turned left, moving quickly but quietly. Zira felt a mix of hope and anxiety. She had been trapped for so long, and now she was free, but the danger was still very real. As they ran, she caught glimpses of her rescuers. Jack was focused and strong, while Maya was fierce and protective. They were nothing like the humans she had heard about from the stories on her planet. "What's your name?" Zira asked Jack, her voice breaking the tense silence. "Jack," he replied, glancing back at her. "And you're Zira. I've heard a lot about you. You're stronger than you look." Zira felt a spark of pride at his words, but it was quickly overshadowed by the sound of footsteps echoing behind them. "We need to hurry," she urged, her heart racing. Just as they reached the maintenance exit, they heard shouting. "There they are. Stop them." A group of guards came into view, blocking their path. Jack's mind raced as he assessed their options. "Back! Back!" Jack shouted, pushing Zira and Maya behind him. He faced the guards, his body tense and ready to fight. "We'll hold them off. Just go." "No," Zira exclaimed, stepping forward. "We can't leave you." She didn't want to be the reason they got caught. She didn't want to be weak anymore. "Zira, listen to me," Jack said firmly. "We need to get out of here. I can handle this." Before Zira could protest, Maya grabbed her arm. "We have to trust him," she said, her voice urgent. Zira looked at Jack, and in that moment, she saw not just a smuggler, but a true hero ready to fight for her freedom. Jack faced the guards, determination burning in his eyes. "You'll have to go through me first," he shouted, ready to protect the two women behind him. He knew he was outnumbered, but he had faced worse odds before. As the guards approached, Zira felt a strange power rising within her. She had been trained in her own way. And now, facing danger, she felt a surge of energy. "Jack, wait," she cried. "Let me help." Before Jack could respond, Zira raised her hands, her eyes glowing with an unusual light. The guards paused, confusion spreading across their faces. In that moment, Zira unleashed a shockwave of energy. The air shimmered, and a force pushed the guards back, knocking them off their feet. Jack blinked in surprise, his jaw dropping. "Whoa, Zira, that was amazing." Maya stared wide-eyed, taking a step back. "You have powers." Zira nodded, her breath quickening. "I didn't know I could do that until now." The adrenaline surged through her, giving her strength. The guards scrambled to regain their footing, but Jack quickly seized the opportunity. "Let's go. Now." He grabbed Zira's hand, and together with Maya, they dashed through the exit. As they burst outside, Zira felt the warm sunlight on her face for the first time in weeks. Freedom was within reach, and she realized she was not just a victim. She was a fighter. Jack and Maya looked back at her with newfound respect, and in that moment, Zira knew she was ready to face whatever lay ahead. Together, they would escape the clutches of the Black Nebula, and she would find her own place in the universe. Escape and pursuit. As Zira, Jack, and Maya sprinted through the facility's back exit, the sound of alarms echoed behind them, filling the air with urgency. Zira's heart raced as they dashed into the open, the bright sun blinding her for a moment. She took a deep breath, feeling the warmth on her skin. They were free, but the danger was not over yet. "Over there," Jack shouted, pointing to a small clearing where the Star Chaser was parked. It sat hidden behind a cluster of rocks, its sleek form almost blending in with the environment. They ran toward it, adrenaline coursing through their veins. Maya reached the ship first, quickly unlocking the door. "Get inside. I'll start the engines," she called, urgency in her voice. Zira followed Jack into the ship, her heart pounding with excitement and fear. Once inside, Jack turned to Zira. "You did great back there." "I didn't know you had those powers," he said, his expression filled with admiration. "I didn't either," Zira replied, still processing what had just happened. "I just felt it come alive when I needed it." Maya's fingers danced over the control panel as she fired up the engines. The ship roared to life, and she glanced at them with a determined look. "We need to go. Now." Just as they strapped themselves into their seats, a loud crash echoed outside. The guards had regrouped, and they were not far behind. Zira could see them rushing toward the ship, weapons drawn. Come on," Jack urged, his voice tense. Maya pushed the throttle forward, and the Star Chaser shot into the sky, leaving the planet's surface behind. But their escape was far from safe. The guards activated their own ships, and several Black Nebula fighters were soon hot on their tail. "Jack, they're coming," Maya shouted, her hands gripping the controls tightly. Jack turned to Zira, his expression serious. "Can you help us? If you can use your powers again, it might buy us some time." Zira took a deep breath, her mind racing. "I'll try." She concentrated, feeling the energy within her begin to swirl. Just as the first enemy ship locked onto them, Zira focused her mind and unleashed a burst of energy toward the pursuing ships. A wave of light erupted from her hands, creating a powerful shockwave that struck the nearest ship. It spun out of control, crashing into the ground below. "I did it," she exclaimed, a mix of thrill and fear in her voice. "Keep going," Jack encouraged. "We need more distance. Maya, can you shake them off?" "I'll do my best," Maya replied, expertly maneuvering the Star Chaser through the narrow canyons. The ship swerved and dipped, narrowly avoiding the rocky cliffs. Zira felt her stomach lurch with every turn, but she knew they had to keep moving. The Black Nebula ships were relentless. More and more fighters joined the chase, and the sound of their engines roared in the air around them. Jack clenched his jaw, trying to think of a way to outsmart their pursuers. "We need to split them up. Zira, can you create another shockwave?" Zira nodded, her focus sharpening. She prepared herself, gathering her energy once more. "Tell me when." "Now," Jack shouted. Zira released her powers again, sending out another blast of energy. This time, it hit multiple ships, causing two of them to collide. The explosion lit up the sky, filling it with smoke and fire. "Good job," Jack yelled, a grin spreading across his face. "Don't get too comfortable," Maya called, her voice filled with tension. "We still have more behind us." The chase continued, but Zira felt empowered. With Jack and Maya by her side, she had found her strength. Together, they were more than just survivors. They were a team. As they approached the edge of the atmosphere, Jack pointed ahead. "There's a warp point up ahead. If we can get there, we can jump to safety." Maya nodded, determination in her eyes. "Hold on tight. We're going to make it." With one final surge of speed, the Star Chaser raced toward the warp point. Zira closed her eyes, feeling the energy flow around her, ready to embrace whatever came next. They were almost there, and freedom was within reach. Bonding and trust. After narrowly escaping the clutches of the Black Nebula, the Star Chaser floated peacefully among the stars. The ship's engines hummed softly as Maya guided them to a nearby safe planet. Jack, Zira, and Maya were finally able to take a moment to breathe. As they landed on the lush green surface of a remote planet called Aloria, the tension that had gripped them during the chase began to fade. Jack stepped out of the ship first, scanning the area to ensure it was safe. He turned back and smiled at Maya and Zira, who were still inside. "Looks good. Let's stretch our legs," he said, feeling a wave of relief wash over him. Zira stepped out of the ship, her eyes wide with wonder. She had never seen anything like this planet before. Tall trees with shimmering leaves swayed gently in the breeze, and colorful flowers bloomed everywhere. "It's beautiful," she whispered, her heart swelling with hope. "It is," Maya agreed, stepping beside her. "But we have to stay alert. We're not out of danger yet." Jack led the way to a nearby clearing where they could set up a temporary camp. They gathered some supplies from the ship and settled down on the soft grass. As they sat together, Zira felt a sense of comfort in their company. They had risked everything to rescue her, and she wanted to know them better. "Thank you for saving me," Zira said, her voice sincere. "I can't believe I'm free." Jack looked at her with kindness. "You fought hard to escape. You're stronger than you think, Zira." Zira smiled shyly, feeling the weight of their words. "I didn't know I had powers until today. It was like something inside me woke up." "That happens when you're pushed to your limits," Maya said, her expression thoughtful. "It's part of who you are. Just remember, with great power comes great responsibility." Zira nodded, absorbing her words. "I want to use my powers to help people, not just to fight. I want to make a difference." Jack glanced at Maya, then back at Zira. "You already are making a difference. You helped us escape. We couldn't have done it without you." Maya added, "And now we can help you too. We're a team. Together, we can fight against the Black Nebula and anyone else who threatens the innocent." Zira felt warmth in her chest. She had never had friends like this before, people who believed in her and supported her. "I want to be a part of this team," she said, her voice filled with determination. Jack smiled. "We'd love to have you, but first, we need to know more about you and your home. What can you tell us about the Black Nebula and their plans?" Zira took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. "The Black Nebula is powerful and ruthless. They capture aliens from different planets and sell them. My people have suffered for too long. I've heard whispers of a bigger plan, but I don't know all the details." Maya leaned closer. "What do you mean by a bigger plan?" "They want to create an army of captured beings, forcing them to fight for their cause. They believe it will give them control over the galaxy," Zira explained, her eyes filled with concern. "If we don't stop them, more lives will be destroyed." Jack felt a surge of anger at the thought. "We can't let that happen. We need to find a way to stop them." Zira nodded, determination shining in her eyes. "We will. Together." As they continued to talk, Zira shared stories about her home and the beauty of her planet. Jack and Maya listened, asking questions and laughing at her tales. The bond between them grew stronger with each word. Hours passed, and as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Zira realized she had found more than just freedom. She had found friendship, trust, and a purpose. Jack looked at her and smiled. "Welcome to the team, Zira. We're glad to have you with us." Zira felt a surge of happiness. She was no longer alone. She was part of something bigger. And together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, ready to fight for a brighter future. The final confrontation. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the clearing where the Star Chaser rested. Zira, Jack, and Maya spent the next few days planning their final confrontation with the Black Nebula. With the information Zira provided, they mapped out a strategy to infiltrate the enemy's main base on the planet Varanthia, where they believed the nebula was preparing their army. "This is it," Jack said, standing in front of the holographic display in the ship. The image of the base flickered in the air, showing the thick walls, guard towers, and landing pads filled with ships. "If we're going to stop them, we have to hit them hard and fast." Maya nodded, her eyes focused on the screen. "We'll need to create a distraction to draw the guards away from the main entrance. Zira, can you use your powers to help with that?" Zira felt a rush of confidence. "Yes, I can create a shockwave that will confuse them and give us a chance to sneak in." "Perfect," Jack replied. "Once the guards are distracted, Maya and I will slip inside and find their control center. We have to shut down their operations before they can deploy their army." Zira's heart raced at the thought of the battle ahead. She had never faced such danger, but she knew this was her chance to make a difference. "I'm ready," she said firmly. As night fell, they took off in the Star Chaser, the ship slicing through the darkness. The atmosphere was tense but filled with purpose. The three of them were determined to bring down the Black Nebula once and for all. When they reached Varanthia, they circled above the base, observing the guards below. "There are more guards than I expected," Jack noted, his brow furrowed. "We'll have to be careful." "Let's do this," Zira said, steeling herself. "I'll create the distraction. Just be ready to move when I do." They landed the Star Chaser at a safe distance and crept toward the base. Zira felt the energy within her buzzing, ready to be unleashed. Jack and Maya moved quietly beside her, adrenaline pulsing through their veins. "On my signal," Zira whispered, her eyes locked onto the guard patrols. 3, 2, 1. With a surge of power, Zira raised her hands and unleashed a shockwave that rippled through the ground. It struck the guards, causing confusion and chaos. They stumbled, shouting at each other in alarm as the ground trembled. "Now," Jack shouted, and they rushed forward, weaving through the confusion. Maya led the way, her agility allowing her to dodge guards and obstacles with ease. Jack followed closely, his focus on getting to the control center. Zira stayed close behind, feeling her heart race with excitement and fear. They entered the base through an unguarded side door, and the atmosphere shifted. The air inside was cold and sterile, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. They navigated the dark halls, guided by the blue glow of emergency lights. Zira could hear the distant sounds of guards trying to regroup, and she knew they didn't have much time. "There it is." Maya pointed to a door marked Control Center. They rushed toward it, but as they reached the door, it slid open, revealing a tall figure in a dark uniform. The leader of the Black Nebula stood before them, a wicked smile on his face. "So you think you can stop me?" he taunted, his voice dripping with disdain. "You are foolish to come here." Jack stepped forward, anger in his eyes. "We're here to end your reign of terror." Zira felt a surge of determination. She stepped beside Jack, her hands ready to unleash her power. "You won't hurt anyone else." The leader laughed, a cold, chilling sound. "You think you can defeat me? I have an army at my command." As he spoke, the alarms blared louder, and the sound of footsteps echoed down the hall. Jack glanced at Zira and Maya. "We need to act fast." With a fierce determination, Zira raised her hands, channeling her energy. "Now," she shouted, unleashing a wave of light that engulfed the leader. He stumbled back, surprised by her power. "Get him!" Jack yelled, rushing forward. The battle was on. Zira felt the energy surge within her, guiding her as she fought alongside Jack and Maya. They moved as a team, combining their strengths to confront the leader and the guards pouring into the room. As the fight intensified, Zira realized that this was her moment to prove herself. She was not just a victim. She was a warrior. Together, they would bring down the Black Nebula once and for all. New beginnings. The battle inside the control center raged on, filled with chaos and determination. Zira, Jack and Maya fought side by side, their movements synchronized as they faced the guards of the Black Nebula. Zira could feel the power within her, stronger than ever. Each burst of energy she released pushed back against the guards, giving her newfound confidence. "Keep pushing," Jack shouted as he ducked under a swinging arm and landed a swift kick to one of the guards. "We can't let them regroup." Maya expertly maneuvered around the chaos, using her quick reflexes to disarm opponents. "I'll handle the controls," she yelled, rushing toward the main console, where the leader had once stood. Zira focused her energy, sending out another shockwave that knocked several guards off their feet. She felt empowered, knowing that she was finally making a difference. "Let's end this," she cried, directing her energy toward the control panel. With a few quick keystrokes, Maya began overriding the system. "I'm shutting down their operations," she announced, her fingers flying across the controls. "This will stop the army from deploying." Just then, the leader of the Black Nebula lunged at them, furious and desperate. "You will pay for this," he shouted, charging toward Zira. Zira stood her ground, feeling the surge of courage. "No more," she declared, raising her hands and unleashing a powerful wave of energy that knocked him back against the wall. The leader gasped, his expression shifting from anger to fear. With one final push, Maya completed the shutdown, and the lights flickered before the control center went dark. The alarms blared one last time before falling silent. "It's done," Maya shouted, a triumphant smile breaking across her face. The remaining guards hesitated, glancing at their leader, who was now dazed and disoriented. Sensing their uncertainty, Jack seized the moment. "You have a choice," he shouted. "Leave now and never come back, or face the consequences." Slowly, the guards lowered their weapons, clearly shaken. One by one, they turned and fled, leaving the three of them standing victorious in the control center. Zira felt a wave of relief wash over her. They had done it. They had defeated the Black Nebula. Jack turned to Zira and Maya, a proud smile on his face. "We did it. I can't believe it." Zira laughed, a sound filled with joy and disbelief. "I never thought I could be part of something like this. Thank you for believing in me." Maya joined them, her eyes shining with excitement. "This is just the beginning. We've made a difference today, and we can do even more together." As they left the control center, the weight of fear and uncertainty began to lift. Zira felt lighter, as if a burden had been removed. They emerged into the bright light of the planet, greeted by the beauty of the landscape around them. The three of them stood together, looking out over the horizon. The sun was setting, casting warm hues across the sky. Zira felt a sense of hope for the future. "What's next for us?" Zira asked, her heart full of possibilities. Jack looked at her, a determined glint in his eyes. "We need to spread the word about what happened here. There are still other planets suffering under the Black Nebula. We can help them." Maya nodded eagerly. "And we can train more people like us. We can form a resistance." Zira felt her heart swell with pride and purpose. "I want to help. I want to make sure no one else suffers like I did." As they stood together, a bond formed between them, one built on trust, courage, and the hope of new beginnings. They were not just survivors anymore, they were heroes. With a renewed sense of purpose, they returned to the Star Chaser, ready to take to the stars once more. Zira took a deep breath, feeling the promise of a brighter future ahead. They were united in their mission, and together, they would bring light to the darkest corners of the galaxy. As the ship soared into the sky, Zira glanced at her friends and smiled. This was only the beginning of their adventure. Together, they would change the galaxy, one battle at a time.